Hello, Broncos country, and welcome to another week of Orange Weekly After Dark. As usual, I'm Jason. I'll be with you tonight. Go ahead and start dropping your comments, questions, discussion topics that you would like to cover tonight, and I will do my best to get to them all. But first, a quick word from our sponsor, Pigskin Podcast. Football fans, I'm sure we all love an action-packed, high-scoring NFL game. But with the latest no-brainer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, you'll be a winner once a single point is scored. New customers who bet just $1 on any team to score can win $100 in free bets. It's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still get in on the NFL action. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports Contest. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So all you have to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code TPPN, bet $1 on any team to score, and you can win $100 in free bets. If they score, you score with promo code TPPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 years or older. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions do apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And don't forget, if you have a gambling problem, you have that resource, 1-800-GAMBLER, to help you out. All right, so on to the show, guys. We're going to start getting to some of these comments here in a second. Tough loss for the Denver Broncos against the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead, a game that was very winnable as it played out, but unfortunately the Broncos just couldn't execute on some key moments with a few key mistakes that kind of ended it for them. It was a tough loss, in my opinion, because for the first time in quite a while, and Travis, I'll get to all of your other comments, but this one just popped up, and I hate Kansas City as well. This was the first time in the last 11 appearances where I felt the Broncos actually had a chance to win. And it wasn't a game like previous games against the Chiefs where the Chiefs just outright beat us. This was a game where the Broncos beat themselves. The mistakes they made, not converting on key plays, poor interceptions. It was the Broncos against the Broncos at that point. They held the Chiefs to one offensive touchdown, which was a Mahomes run. They held Mahomes to one of his lowest QBRs, especially at home, and still couldn't get the win. Thanks for joining me tonight, guys. I promise I'm going to try to get through all your comments here. We'll address this. Terrible Vic Fangio and George Payton and Teddy. Yeah, we'll cover that. Terrible game by Teddy, I think, minus the one drive. I think, honestly, the game plan was a pretty solid game plan. On defense, it was outstanding. And I think offensively, it wasn't a bad game plan offensively. We just couldn't convert. Too many mistakes by Teddy. And that long drive, I wish we had taken a timeout on that fourth down play to make sure we had the right play dialed up and that everyone was on the same page, because clearly they weren't. And when you have a drive like that, 20 plays, 11 minutes off the clock at Arrowhead Stadium, literally was perfect up until that point, in terms of what you want out of a drive against Kansas City. So when you have a drive like that and you come out with 0 points, that is just such a deflating gut punch for any team. And so to come back from that would have been difficult. They definitely had their chances, but definitely didn't come anywhere close putting together another drive like that. I agree, Gus. Bruised a lot of people's hearts for sure. It was the most meaningful game in December the Broncos have played in probably 5 years, and didn't get blown out again because they didn't match up. They lost because they beat themselves. Terrible week. I just can't wait. You're going to have to wait you're going to have to wait until the end of the season. That's the way it is. Again, maybe, yeah. But I can't pin that loss on Fangio. I can't. I can't even pin it on Shermer, to be honest. I think they did a great job sticking with the run game against a team that struggles against the run game. Play calling was pretty decent for the most part. It was just, again, poor execution. How many, Bridgewater with terrible throws. Special teams with their usual 1 week, once a week gimmick that has a massive impact on the game. Should Fangio be fired after the season? He probably will be, if we're being honest. But can I blame that on him? I can't blame this loss on Fangio, especially defensively. He dialed up a phenomenal game plan against a very stout Kansas City Chiefs offense that had started to get rolling here. Do I still think Fangio will be here at the end of the season? I do. I think he will absolutely be here at the end of the season. Reason being, because again, I mean, the way the AFC is playing out is just unreal, guys. I mean, we are very much still in the hunt here. As crazy as it is to say, we're 6-6. But to dial it up with you, Patriots did win tonight, which puts them into first place. Man, that was a very nice 3 seconds we had where the Patriots were irrelevant and already back into first place. Titans, Ravens are 8-4, Chiefs 8-4. Here's where it starts to get interesting. Chargers 7-5. We're 1 game behind them, and remember, we play them one more time. Bengals 7-5. We play the Bengals still. Bills down to 7-5. Steelers 6-5-1. Colts 7-6. Raiders 6-6. We play the Raiders again. Browns 6-6, and Broncos 6-6. So here's the thing: you don't fire a coach when you have a few games left in the season. You are very much in the hunt for a playoff spot. You just don't fire a head coach in that situation. And so, if we were already out of it, if we were 4-8, we weren't really, even if we had maybe one more loss and that we just weren't going to make the playoffs, then even then, there's a reason you don't see too many head coaches fired in the middle of the season in the NFL. It just doesn't, more times than not, it doesn't give your team any kind of advantage. However, especially now, hey, we play the Lions next, and Travis, I'm going to have to disagree with you there. I think if the Broncos, clean up a few things, they're going to be at home. They absolutely should take care of business, and I think we'll beat the Lions. This team's still determined. They're not giving up on the season. They are extremely upset with how they played because they know that this was a game they could have won on the road. And so I think they're going to come out swinging next week against the Lions. So here's the thing: we play the Lions next week. Say we take care of business, get the win, and hey, then I think we have Cincy next. Take care of business against them. You win those 2 games, and you are in the driver's seat for getting a wild card spot at that point, with games still against Chargers, Raiders, Chiefs. At that point, it becomes a divisional battle for those final spots for the wild card. But it does come down to the next 2 weeks for sure. If we lose one of the next 2 weeks, we are going to have a very, very hard time getting the playoffs. But as it is right now, we win the next 2 games, and again, we're in the driver's seat. We have every bit of a chance to make the playoffs. So players aren't giving up. I'm not giving up. I don't think the management at all is going to give up on the coaching staff right now. Offseason is a totally different thing to discuss, but you're not going to fire a head coach this close to the season's end when you are very much still having a chance to make the playoffs. See if I have, Teddy had no enthusiasm. He looked off for sure. He does always kind of have that more stoic look to him. So in terms of, just the way he looked as far as having no enthusiasm, that's kind of him in general. He's very laid back, easygoing guy. But I do agree. I think he was off that last night. I think he was terrible. He made some very poor decisions, poor quality passes. Definitely was not the Teddy Bridgewater we've seen most of this season. You can still bounce back for sure. And I would still say it's pretty easy, in my opinion, if you look at any measure, that he is the best quarterback we've had since Peyton Manning. Again, I've talked about this in weeks before. I'm not saying, when I say that, I'm not saying he's the quarterback of our future. I'm not saying we're going to see him being the starter quarterback next season. What I am saying is he gives us the best chance to make the playoffs this year, right now. So the Broncos are going to continue to ride him. We're not going to go to Drew Lock. I've already seen those comments. I cannot understand how people still think Lock is a better quarterback than Bridgewater at this point. Every single thing we've seen from Drew Lock has been abysmal. He's not the answer long term, and he's certainly not the answer short term. So don't expect to see Lock, barring any injury to Teddy Bridgewater. That being said, I agree. Teddy did not have a good game. He probably had, if this was not his worst game of the season, it was probably his second worst. And so tough to see when it's such a big game, primetime television, winner takes first place in the division for the time being. So, it's tough to not get your best game out of your quarterback in that situation, but it does happen. And again, I think that's, points to him not being our starter next year. But again, at the same time, there's plenty of football to be played for this Broncos team yet this season, and Bridgewater absolutely still gives us our best chance to make the playoffs. What are my thoughts on John Elway leaving after this year and Joe Ellis? If we're talking about any news that it's going to happen, I haven't seen anything like that. As far as John Elway leaving, I think John Elway is going to be part of this for a while. Correct me if I'm wrong, by all means, but I haven't seen too much of that. Joe Ellis, I do think I've seen it, is leaving. I think it just plays into the whole, we've talked about this in the show before and other aspects of Orange Weekly, where there's just this continual void of no ownership within this organization that kind of creates some of these seasons where it just seems like the wheels are spinning right now. Some people say it's not as big of a deal as people are making out to be as far as having no ownership. I can see both arguments. I think it is a big deal, though. Maybe not as big of a deal as some people attribute it to. However, I do think it's an issue when there's no one at top who's overseeing the whole operation that holds everyone accountable for how they're doing. I don't have an answer for you this, Shane. I'm sorry. He's still employed. I don't know. Again, this is by far the worst season performance of a special teams I have ever seen. I mean, we've all seen, bad special teams, and, they'll make some bad plays, maybe 30-40% of the time. It's pretty rough. This team, I swear, special teams, 80% of the time they make some stupid play, whether it's a stupid penalty that pins us back, whether it's a decision to, we can take our pick with special teams. There's obviously the big one where we allowed Kansas to block our guy into our returner, who then muffed the punt. We could talk about how Spencer, instead of taking a fair catch at the end of the second half, where we still have a timeout, we might be able to, make a quick play, get a field goal, get some more momentum heading into halftime. Instead, he runs lateral for 12 seconds to pick up 1 yard on his return. And all of a sudden we have 4 seconds left. Just terrible decision-making across the board. Terrible decision, when to catch it versus when to let it go. Penalties. And again, if this was just the first time this season, it would be one thing, but this is every single week with special teams. So by far this is the worst special teams in modern NFL history. I would be willing to, without any stats at my hand, without any hard objective evidence, I would still be willing to go out on a limb and say that this is the worst special teams in modern NFL history, without a doubt. I don't agree with this. George Payton has just taken over. And I think look at the draft class. Everyone that he drafted this year is making meaningful contributions. Anyone who's still saying that we should have picked Fields over PS2 is just in wishful thinking right now. Fields could still be good, sure, but there's nothing that I've seen out of Fields right now that makes me go, yeah, we botched that one, especially with how well PS2 is playing. And if you look at all these, statistics, really PS2 should be getting some serious looks for defensive rookie of the year. 3 interceptions the last 2 games alone. He's playing a huge role with this defense, who's finally starting to find their game over the past couple of weeks here. And he's been absolutely outstanding. And again, it's not just him; the entire draft class has been outstanding. You pair that with some of the trades that Peyton has made. The Von Miller trade. Hey, love Von Miller. Always going to be a Denver Bronco without a doubt. I'm sure at some point when he does retire, he'll sign a one-day contract with the Broncos so he can retire as a Bronco. That being said, I've seen nothing out of Miller's game in Los Angeles, and I've seen no serious downgrade from our defense to make me go, we are really missing Von Miller this season. And so with that trade, we gained draft capital, which who knows what George Payton is planning right now, right? He could be absolutely using that draft capital to flip a trade this offseason for a very solid quarterback. Big names that you're going to see in headlines, whether it happens or not is a different story, but the headlines are going to be showing Denver Broncos going after Russell Wilson, Denver Broncos going after Aaron Rodgers. Those are going to be the two names that you're going to see in the headlines for sure, because the Broncos have the cap space to afford those quarterbacks. They absolutely have the offense lined up where it's enticing for a quarterback to want to come to, get to be able to, get rid of Shermer, and basically let that quarterback decide who he wants as an offensive coordinator. So, and a defense right now that again is performing almost as well as they should be. If you go by them being the highest paid defense in the NFL. So this is a team that really, I think, is really a legitimate quarterback away from being in very serious competitive discussions. And so, Peyton walked into the situation, right, where it was a mess to start with. He's already turning things around. Already his vision starting to come through. The trades he's made, the players that have come in have made immediate impacts. The draft picks he's made have been outstanding this year. And we have a lot of draft capital and a lot of cap space where he can absolutely flip a trade. He has the potential to flip a trade for a high-end quarterback this offseason. So can't blame George Payton either. I think, again, anytime a new GM walks in, you got to give him some leeway because he's walking into a situation, right? The team's set up as it's set up with some minor tweaks and trades that you can do. But by and large, there's not much that the GM can do that first season in charge. Look his record in his division and overall 1-8-26. Not good. I'm guessing you're talking about Fangio again. You're right. I mean, it's not a good look, and I'm not saying it's a good look for his future as the coach of the Broncos. But I guess my question to you would be, what do the Broncos gain in firing Fangio? Nothing. I mean, this late in the season, especially, you're talking a new coach comes in with a new philosophy. You can't demote your head coach to defensive coordinator in the middle of the season. It's not in his contract. So you have to fire him. So then our defense, which again is playing awesome, who knows how much they crumble without a great, got to give Fangio credit. He's known as one of the best defensive minds in the NFL. Now, yes, a coordinator does not always translate into a head coach successful record, but he's got a great defensive mind. And so you fire Fangio, now all of a sudden our defense is who knows. And the guy that's going to take over, I guarantee you, is Shermer. And the reason behind that is he's next in line as far as seniority, as far as NFL experience, and he's worked with Peyton before. So Payton knows him, understands him, knows how to work with him. And so if you're going to have a successor, it's going to be Shermer. And we all know that's probably not the best interest for the Broncos either. So firing Fangio does absolutely nothing to help this team. And that's why you're going to see him stay for the rest of the year. Again, you're right. His divisional record, all of that is not a good look. And it definitely paints a bleak picture for him come Black Monday, should we miss the playoffs. But either way, this is a team that's going to be led by Fangio and Bridgewater for the rest of the season. Thanks guys for joining me. By all means, I'm trying to get to you if I haven't already. So if I haven't gotten to your question or you think I've skipped it, don't take it personally. Just repost your question, and I will get to it as I can. Gus saying Sutton is distracted and count his money. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think a lot of it is, again, we've had a very run heavy approach to our game yesterday for two reasons. We want very long drives against the Kansas City Chiefs to keep Mahomes off the field. And the Chiefs are pretty brutal in their run defense, right? They don't have a good run defense game right now. And so, and again, Sutton's still playing well, right? He's the number one receiver, meaning he's going to draw the most coverage from the other team. He's going to be facing some double teams. He's going to be facing the number one corners. So I think he's still playing well. Yeah, he's been a bit quiet, but I haven't seen anything to make me think he's being lazy. Minus one play, that deep throw that looked initially like it was well overshot by Bridgewater. He did slow down in his route a little bit. But I'm going to give him, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's earned his contract. He has earned the status of a wide receiver number one. And so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I'm going to say, hey, maybe he's had a couple rough games. Part of it's the game plan that goes into it. But yeah, we'll see how he responds because we're going to need our big players to step up for sure. How we doing, guys? Again, if you are just joining us for the first time, feel free to drop any comments, questions that you've got. Hey, you know what? You're welcome for Vaughn. I hope you treat him well. Kenny Young's doing okay for us. Our defense right now is plugging away. Von Miller, how's he doing for you guys right now? Because last I checked, he hasn't been a big factor for you either. I love Von Miller, but we definitely appreciate those draft picks that you give us as well. So we'll be talking a couple years, maybe in this next season, once we find out who we use those draft picks for. Let's see. Kenny was one of my favorite players on the Rams. Still confused. Yeah, he's been good for us so far. Definitely enjoying him. I don't know his contract situation off the top of my head as far as if he's signed after the season or not, if he's going to become a free agent. But definitely a great trade in my opinion. Again, I love Vaughn. Hope you guys treat him well. I'm curious where Vaughn signs with this offseason as well, if he goes back to the Rams or who he ends up with. But I know I'm biased in what I'm thinking, but I think the Broncos won that trade. Do we get rid of Drew Lock after this season? I hope so. I absolutely hope so. I see no future with Lock in this organization. If it were in a perfect ideal world, if this were Madden where I could set the settings easy and I could have my way with whatever I wanted, Drew Lock would be gone the second I could trade him. I'm re-signing Bridgewater to be the backup because I think he'd be an outstanding backup. He'd probably be the best backup in the NFL. So I'm re-signing Bridgewater, take that backup role if he should so want that role. And then I'm going hard after Wilson or Rodgers, preferably Wilson because he's a bit younger. I think he's got some more, bit more life in him than Rodgers does. But either way, either of those quarterbacks, if we're able to convince those teams to trade him to the Broncos, this team becomes an instant competitor with the roster we have. So, but yeah, in my opinion, Drew Lock has no business here. He's proven he can't even be a backup. If you need him to come into a game, he's unprepared. He makes all the excuses in the world. He's a terrible leader. It was a big swing and miss from Elway in drafting him. Time to cut our losses, see what we can get for him, even if it's a low-level draft pick. But hey, my opinion, Drew Lock is no longer a Bronco after the season. Shane saying the only issue I see of getting rid of Fangio is the defensive scheme. He's one of the best defense minds, which I think I touched on. So glad you reiterated my point, Shane. Great minds think alike. Ty's the best option on our roster, unfortunately. Could have left the unfortunately off, make us feel a little bit better. But he is currently our best option. Let's see. Did anyone see Teddy hesitate to tackle? He didn't though. He threw his body at him. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole again. I went off that week in the minority view of what Bridgewater should have done and how one play doesn't define him. And hey, to his credit, once that interception came his way, he threw his body, didn't make the tackle, but he tried. He threw his whole body at him. So I can't blame him for that effort on that tackling attempt right there. All right, question. If you could take one current Broncos player to a restaurant for dinner, who would you pick? And at what restaurant would you go to? That's a great question. Shoot, there's so many ones that come to mind. I know the answer for the restaurant. I'm absolutely going to Elway's. Got to go to one of the best steakhouses in Colorado, named Elway's, obviously for obvious reasons there. So that would absolutely be the restaurant of choice. As far as who I would want to take with me, um, right now, Justin Simmons is coming to mind. I think he's got a great personality. He's a great leader. Um, and he's stuck with the Broncos, some rough patches with some contract talks and all that, but he continues to step up, be one of the best safeties in this game. And I think he'd be a fun guy to talk to, pick his brain about football and also just about other life events and whatnot. So that's going to be who I take. But let's see, we also got some other, at least one other answer here. We've got one saying he would take Teddy to Casablanca so you get food poisoning. It wouldn't play Sunday. That took a turn I was not expecting to see. But that was funny. So I will give you that one. That is hardcore. He would have a great time though. Food is questionable. It is an experience to go there, that's for sure. Again, I don't think anyone's necessarily disagreeing with you there as far as the head coach, but again, we've been over. He's our best option right now, and he is one of the best defense mind in the games. Everyone, within the game and all that will tell you that he is one of the best defensive minds, and that's why he's such a great defensive coordinator. He reads the game very well defensively. He has great defensive play calling. But again, just because you're a great coordinator doesn't mean you have the skill set to be a great head coach. They're different skill sets altogether, and so that's where his downfall has been, is he hasn't been able to transfer over into the head coach role and lead from a head coach position. Pat Shermer was my least favorite offensive coordinator. Hey, got that in common. Broncos have had a fair share of rough ones, but yeah, I think it's a close race right now. I don't know. Thanks for joining us tonight. This is awesome, by the way. I don't know how closely you follow Broncos and our fandom, but within Broncos country, it's a very close race of who is the most hated coach right now, and it is definitely a race between Shermer and McMahon, who is our special teams coach. Fangio comes in a close second after that, but Shermer's been rough. Shermer's that guy that thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, but he's the only one in the room. Well, then by your definition, he is still technically the smartest in the room. Drew Lock or Jamarcus Russell? I want to say Russell, and part of that's just pride. I think Drew Lock still has a potential future in the NFL. I don't know who that's with. I don't know who wants to take that chance on him. Jamarcus Russell was such a big bust that his career was so short-lived. And especially as a quarterback, I do think Drew Lock has potential. I just don't think that potential exists within the Broncos organization anymore. One, I think there's a lot of broken trust between both sides. I think there's some negativity, some bad blood a little bit, especially with them deciding to go with Bridgewater over him this year. So again, Lock has potential. So with that, right now, I want to say Jamarcus Russell is the biggest bust, but hey, talk to me again in a year and I could be totally wrong on that. Yeah, he'll get it going though. He plays big in big games. So I am still upset we lost Vaughn, but it was for a good return. So what's it going to take to beat Kansas City? The same exact game plan with better execution. Again, heavy on the run game because Kansas City struggles with the run. Take very long drives. Not every drive is going to be an 11-minute, 20-play drive, but take very long drives. Keep Mahomes off the field. Stay staunch defensively, right? Again, we only allowed one offensive touchdown, which is awesome defensively. And at this point, you just hope that your special teams doesn't get in the way. You're not going to have a massive positive play from your special teams. So just hope that they don't screw things up in a way that gives the Chiefs an advantage like they had this past game. So that's what it is. Again, it's the same game plan that we had, just better execution. And if you're Bridgewater, don't turn over the ball. Don't throw interceptions, right? So Other than that, I think we had a great game plan that started to look well against Kansas City until we got 0 points off on that long drive, which again is just so deflating as a team at that point. Last game is water on the bridge. Water. See what you did there. Not bad. Travis, I'm not sure what you're getting at with Reisner right now. If you're just let me know. I think you might be possibly. Oh, okay. All right. There we go. Thanks for clarifying. You would take Reisner to a Nuggets game. Interesting choice. I didn't think of taking him to a sporting event, but that would be pretty cool. I've heard Reisner's a great guy too, so I think that would be a fun time. Let's bring Kellen Moore as head coach. Wade Phillips as defensive coordinator next season with Wilson at quarterback. Auto Super Bowl contenders. I don't know what it would take to get Wade Phillips back to the Broncos, but that would be pretty sweet. It's not going to happen, but even if we were able to get Fangio to stay as defensive coordinator, it's not going to happen because you never demote a head coach. No head coach is willing to stay at the place they just got fired. But Kellen Moore's head coach, why not? There's going to be some interesting conversations about who head coach is going to be. I personally think it might be a little bit too early to discuss this since we have still a few more weeks of meaningful football. But if you have any ideas of who you'd want your next head coach of the Denver Broncos to be, by all means, drop it in the chat. Hey, again, thanks for joining us. If you are still with us, just know we have lots of content throughout the week. We've got our main flagship show that happens on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. We also have post-game podcasts, pre-game podcasts. We've got Tailgate Talk, which takes place about an hour before kickoffs. And we have Halftime Hash. So if you want to, during halftime, discuss the Broncos game that's going on instead of seeing highlights from other games and watching commercials, always feel free to jump onto our stream during halftimes as well. The only way this season we beat Kansas City if we put an F between the K and the C. I'm not. This is a family-friendly show. It's not, but I've got nothing to respond to that. That was. Here's the thing. We have them at home next, right? We have them at home. It's going to be a bigger game for us than them at that point. Because I would not be surprised if it's a game where we have to win to stay and playoff contention. Where at that point they might have already sealed up the divisional lead at that point. So it might be a game where hey, our backs against the wall. They might be resting some starters. So hey, maybe that's what it takes too. Is Kansas City resting some starters. And Mile High Huddle with all right. As much as Denver loves Vaughn, we did win the trade. I'll take that for sure. But still, good luck to Von Miller for sure. All right, guys. I want to start wrapping up here, but any last second comments, questions, or quick discussion points you'd like to go over, feel free to drop them real quick. But again, just a reminder, we got lots of content coming your way. If you haven't followed our social media pages, please do that. We have a Facebook you can follow. We have a YouTube channel now. We've got Twitter. We've got Instagram. So feel free to like and follow all of those pages if you haven't already. And a couple things you can do to help us out because, hey, this is a page that was created by Broncos fans for other Broncos fans because we really enjoy talking Broncos football with other fans. That's why we have this set up where we discuss it with you, open comments where we can, talk about it with you guys. So the more of you guys that join on, the more fun it is. So if you haven't already, feel free to please share our pages with friends. Even fans of other teams. I mean, we just had a Rams fan join us tonight. Great time with him. So by all means, share our page. We enjoy discussing football with all fans, even Raiders fans. We'll take them on so we can educate them on what good football is. But hey, we appreciate this feedback. There are different ways you can give us feedback. You can give us a review on our Facebook page. Is one way to do it. We always appreciate those that we can share with other people. Throwing us stars through Facebook is a thing now, which we greatly appreciate as well. And again, just sharing our page, making sure that you're liking all of our content for those fun social media algorithms that, however they do it, where more interactions lead to more interactions somehow. So anyways, we appreciate all your guys' help. We've grown a lot over the past couple of years, and it's really because of you guys. So we enjoy these conversations. Even when Broncos lose, it's fun to hop on here and talk to you all about what went wrong, what we're still holding on to hope for, and still cling to the hopes of a future Broncos organization that looks like the successful past organizations of the Denver Broncos. So, hey, appreciate you guys joining me tonight. Again, go ahead and give us a like on all that stuff. Please tune into the rest of our content coming at you this week. We definitely appreciate it. We appreciate you guys. And as always, win or lose, at the end of every Orange Weekly After Dark, go Broncos.